Hello, I'm Anthony. I'm going to show you how to use one of these things today. This is a sound level meter. I want to know whether or not the level that I'm listening to on my headphones, particularly when I'm mixing and I tend to push things as loud as I consider to be safe, is it actually safe? So I wanted to take a proper reading with one of these. I've just bought this weekend, and I'm going to compare it with an app on the phone, a couple of ways that we can use this meter on my headphones, try to get the most accurate figure that we possibly can. Now, if you do the research on the internet as to what level is safe to listen to in your headphones, generally speaking, the number that you're going to see more often than any other is 85 dB. And what that means is 85 decibels sound pressure level. SPL, or sound pressure level, is the acoustic decibel measurement scale that we use in the real world. There's a different scale called dB full scale, which is what you'll see in your DAW. And they're completely different. Don't mix the two things up. dBFS has its upper limit at 0. 0 dB is the point at which you enter a thing called digital clipping, where the noise starts to distort. And basically the scale for dBFS is inverted. So 0 dB is the loudest thing that a DAW should output without distorting, and it goes down to minus infinity. You've got a usable range of somewhere in the region of 0 to minus 40. Every 6 decibels that you go down from 0, you're halving the volume, so something's getting quieter and quieter. The difference between minus 24 and minus 30 is therefore very significant because it's twice as quiet. dB SPL, or sound pressure level, is the other way around, and the rate of measurement for SPL is 0 is the quietest thing a human being can hear. So this is now calibrated against the human ear empirically, and 140 dB is going to cause permanent damage to anybody who hears something that loud. So that's your workable range. Now, when you're wearing headphones, the noise that's entering your ears, generally speaking, shouldn't go above 85 dB SPL. That's just a medically kind of derived figure. The longer you listen to something at a particular volume, the more danger you're in of causing hearing damage. But there's a level below which it's pretty much okay to listen to constantly. And 85 is that borderline where you're okay to listen to something for 85 dB for quite a long time in terms of hours. And just by pushing it to 90, you're immediately entering the territory where you're going to cause yourself some harm. So that's what I want to find out. What's the volume that I'm listening to on my headphones? Well, the first thing that I'm going to do is play this. I've got a sine wave test tone set up in Cubase. I'm going to get that running. I'm going to turn my meter on. The first thing to notice, apart from the fact that when you first turn it on, it says low battery. It's not low battery. But there's a little A in the bottom corner, and there's an A/C indicator. It's now saying C. Those are two different meter measurement types, and C is the unfiltered pure measurement, so that's the one we want. As I'm talking to you, you can see the meter is registering my voice. So now I'm going to get this sine tone going, put it up against my headphones, and I'll just shut up for a few seconds while we take that measurement. It's about 57. Now, the reason why it was varying slightly was because I'm pressing this foam against the speaker. So inside my headphone, every slight change of sound that I make on this thing, it's very sensitive. It's going to pick up everything. The first thing to note is that when I take this off and do the test again, we're going to get a higher reading because the microphone is that much closer to the headphone. Let's do that. Okay, so we're now seeing about 61. So that's 61 dB. The reason why that's so quiet, my Cubase is currently set to 0 on the stereo output. So it's outputting, let me shut that tone up. I've not got my headphones on today, so I can't hear what you're hearing. The reason why that's relatively quiet is because that's quite a low pitched tone. If I increase the tone a couple of octaves, we're going to get different meter readings. Let's try that. So that measured 68 there. That goes to show that different tones are going to register differently on the meter. So volume isn't just volume. Cubase is still outputting, as far as it's concerned, 0 dB on the meter. All of my levels inside Cubase are set to 0 everywhere. The other important point to note is that at the moment, the headphone output on my audio interface is set to 12 o'clock. So I can control the level going out to these speakers. Everything is context-based, everything is adjustable, and this is why we have to actually do empirical readings on this stuff rather than just looking up in a book. You know, every single input to this thing is going to have some kind of impact on it. So we've now generated a sort of baseline. Now the reason for going through all of that is because I'm now going to do exactly the same test using my phone. Now with sine tones like this, of very specific frequency, the app's not going to be as accurate. As I'm talking to you, you can see that the dB meter on the phone is changing. Now I'm going to get the sine tone going again, and I'll hold the microphone up. Hopefully I'm not being too obvious if I say that's the microphone hole. There you go. That's the microphone. So I'm going to hold that smack in the center of the headphones as accurately as I can. Let's do that. The reason for the difference in those two measurements is that there's all sorts of bleed there. I can't get the phone microphone close enough to the headphone speaker to take as accurate a measurement as I can with the meter. What I've established there is that the seal on the headphone matters. The better we can get this seal, the more that we can enclose this air, the more accurately we're going to represent the level at the speaker. Now that's true, and I'm going to try and demonstrate that now with this delightful homemade design. This is some polystyrene packing that came with a vacuum cleaner that we bought last week. We just happened to have a couple of sheets of polystyrene lying around ready to go, you know, in the bin, unfortunately. I didn't buy anything to do this experiment with because the less of this stuff in the world, the better. But anyway, I had this piece of polystyrene lying around, and I found something that was relatively similar to the width of a head. And I was able to cut a hole in it so that the meter can go through it. I can put the headphones on this and post my meter through that little hole. So I'll get set up and then come back in a moment. Okay, so Mr. Polystyrene is now wearing my headphones, and I've got the cap. Basically, the headphone is as accurately as I can right in the middle of that hole. Now I'm going to post the meter into the hole, and I've already determined that if I post into about that level, the meter is just touching the speaker. So I've basically kind of calculated how thick I need to push this thing in, which is there. There we go. Now I need to start the tone. So many moving parts to this demonstration. Let's get the... Where are you? Come on. So it got louder. We're now at 72 dB. You'll notice that everything's very slightly changed. I'm having to do this in two sections because from this point onwards, I basically made a complete mess of the demonstration. I left that tone running for the next few minutes and it was unbearable. But I also got my input levels wrong. The reason why the wheels fell off this part is because I've needed to change the configuration. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to play a proper song. We've done test tones. We've got some sort of bass level, but that's no use to the real world. We actually listen to songs. So what I've done here is I've loaded one of my songs up, which I've recently completed, and it's been through a maximizer. So this song is basically outputting as hot as it possibly can. It's generating a -14 LUFS reading, which stands for loudness units, And this is the thing that the likes of Spotify and YouTube care about. This is the average loudness as far as a human ear is concerned. There's all sorts of perception weightings. It's a very complicated subject, but basically this song is the correct level of volume to be output to the outside world. So what I'm going to press play on now is something that's really going to be pretty close to accurate. The one thing that I didn't do on my previous demonstration is dramatically decrease the output level to OBS. OBS runs pretty hot, so I usually have to turn the stereo output from Cubase down in order to get a decent level into OBS. I need Cubase to output at exactly 0 for this test to be accurate. So just bear with me while I fiddle with some of the levels that you're going to hear. They have nothing to do with what's going to the headphones. This is the important part. So as you saw, about 78 dB, which is still well below. It's really difficult without headphones on to make sure that I'm not speaking too loud or any part of this demo is wrong. Basically, so 78 dB at 12 o'clock on my headphone output. So that's the definitive answer that I was looking for. That 78 dB there or thereabouts on the meter that you just saw is as close as I can possibly get to the number that's actually going into my ears when I'm mixing a song. This song is at 0 dB. My headphones are at 12 o'clock. Everything's flat. That's what I'm hearing. So I'm actually listening to it a little bit quieter. I can afford to increase that by a couple of dB, still get nowhere near causing damage to my ears. And I'm basically just going to improve my ability to hear problems with the sound. That's really useful information to me. The final part of the test is that I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to turn the song back on again, which means messing around with the OBS levels again. And this time I'm going to send it into the phone app. So we had about 78 on the meter. What does the phone app think this song sounds like over the same period of time? I still have to try to find the rhyme that sells a bed. Now, I would have to do a lot more science in order to draw any definitive conclusions, but tentatively I'm going to say that the phone is basically just inherently more inaccurate. I'm going to presume that the meter is accurate because every time I'm putting it up to the headphones, I'm getting a very consistent reading. Whereas depending on what kind of signal's going into the phone, I'm getting a wider variance. Having said that, they're really pretty close. If you want a decent ballpark idea of whether or not you're listening to headphones at a safe level, then I would say your phone app is going to be fine to within 2 or 3 dB either way. But if you want that more accurate kind of consistent stability of your meter readings, then obviously something a little bit more kind of dedicated to that purpose is just going to do a better job. Hope you found this video useful. If you did, please hit the like button. Thanks very much for watching.